Tonight on the Fifth Chapter, no baseball means no home runs, but Miguel Cabrera only has 31 over the last 3 seasons. Where does his approval rating stand right now? Major League Baseball plans to ban spitting and high fives while making some players sit in the stands. Smart move or a bit excessive? And Governor Whitmer liberates Michigan bars and restaurants, but only up north. Is it time to head up I-75? And what about Metro Detroit? Join the conversation by sending your tweets to @DennisFithian and @BChapSports. This is the Fifth Chapter with Dennis Fithian and Brian Chapman.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fifth Chapter. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They get laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fifth Chapter.
That's right, and we are live. I am Brian Chapman. He is Dennis Fithian. Thank you guys for tuning in to this third episode ever of the Fifth Chapter. How you doing, Dennis?
Good, number 3, let's do it.
That's right, we've got 5 fantastic chapters for you guys out there. Thank you to everyone who is watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast on Apple, iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and participate in each show by sending your tweets to @DennisFithian or @BChapSports or by commenting during the live stream right here on the side. Let's take a look, though, at today's book. As you can see in the second chapter, Major League Baseball is planning to make some changes to the 2020 season out of safety, including banning spitting, including putting some players up in the stands when they're not in the game. Is that a necessary evil or a bit too excessive? In the third chapter, Governor Whitmer liberates up north bars and restaurants. Are you going up I-75? And what about Metro Detroit? In the fourth chapter, it says man, woman, or child, but Dennis told me just moments before the show he's got a different game that we're going to play, so I'm looking forward to that. Not sure exactly what it is. And then,
curveball time for you.
Yeah, it's a curveball. I can hit a curveball. It's been a while, but I can still hit a curveball. And then in the fifth chapter, an ESPN expert said that the Lions basically had a same old Lions offseason. Is that fair, or is this guy just a hater? But we're going to start off with the first chapter. Makes sense to go in chronological order. And Dennis, it is May 19th. A lot of us expected that by now we'd be getting a look at some of Al Avila's top prospects, and we'd be talking about the trade deadline and the number 1 pick in the 2021 draft, because the Tigers would be about 8-35 right now. Instead, the Rona has left us with no baseball except for the Korean baseball organization, which you refuse to watch. One thing we do know is the biggest star on the Tigers continues to be Miguel Cabrera, partially because of what he's done, and partially because it's hard to name more than like 4 or 5 other players on this squad. He's been injured over the last few years. His power has disappeared. He's been reduced to a DH. Meanwhile, he's still getting paid $30 million per year. Obviously, this year it's going to be prorated. Dennis, what's the approval rating of Miguel Cabrera right now among Detroit Tigers fans?
Well, I would put it at a 7. I would put it at a 7 right now because no games are being played. You know, Miggy's pretty good in the off season because there's always a chance, if you're a Tigers fan, you could talk yourself into it. Like, hey, man, he could be Big Papi. You know, he's 37 years old. Look at what Big Papi was able to do. And I hear that a lot of times, and that's the wishful thinking from Tiger fans. And then he goes out there and hits the field, and then he's out, you know, after a couple weeks for the season. And then it's like, oh, they got 4 years, $124 million left. So, yeah, right now it's a 7, but that thing could plummet quick.
Yeah, when I look at approval ratings in politics, oftentimes it'll say somebody has like a 47% approval rating and 43% disapprove, and you wonder what happened to those other 10%. and those other 10% are either undecided or indifferent. And I think, well, you rated a 7 out of 10. I think a lot of Tigers fans right now are in that group of undecided or indifferent about Miggy right now. When it comes to his overall career, they approve because of what happened in the past, but right now they're indifferent because nobody approves of that contract. You just threw out the numbers left on his deal. There's no chance that he's going to make up that money in terms of value. His speed might not be at VMART levels, but it's getting there. He was diagnosed with chronic knee injury last year. That's going to affect his speed. It's been hurting his power, too, because he only has 31 home runs over the last 3 seasons. And his last 3 seasons have produced the 3 lowest slugging percentage totals of his career, all under 450, 2 of those years under 400. So I think that the reason that he's got an indifferent or an undecided approval rating is mostly because you can't give him a high approval rating because he's not playing well and he hasn't been over the last 3 years. And
hey, Jeff, I'll give you one reason why it could drop 1 point, maybe drop 2 or 3 points, or jump up a point or 2 just on a picture. Do you know what that is?
On a picture?
Just looking at a picture.
Oh, because he lost weight in spring training, right?
Well, he did, and now that we've had this time off, what's he been doing? I know myself, last year, if you're looking at pictures of me, you're like, hey, man, you're looking pretty good. But now you're looking back, you're like, hey, you ballooned back up a little bit. It's going to be important there. I think we're all waiting to see him in this spring training. I remember in the winter, I saw a picture of him, and he was working out, doing all these twists, and, I was, taking a close look, and I'm like, yeah, he looks pretty good. He does look good. And then, he did, from all accounts there, it looked good down at spring training. But now it's been 2 months or more. What's he been doing with that 2 months? Has he continued that training regimen, or is he going to come in and, I don't know, look fat?
Well, and we hear this every single year with Miguel Cabrera. He's in the best shape of his career, and he was working out with this guy. He's doing MMA and all that. And I think you're right. If we see some pictures or we see some video, or when they resume spring training, hopefully when they resume it in the middle of June, if he comes back looking like Usain Bolt, or if he just looks like he did back in March, then his approval rating will go up because folks will assume that he's taking good control of his body and he's trying to make himself look like a $30 million per year player. But when he looks like the hot dog vendor, that's a problem. And I think that one reason why his approval rating isn't lower or everybody hates him right now is because the team is so bad that even if he were to turn it up and play like Mike Trout, it wouldn't matter. But if the team was a 500 squad and he was out there hitting 280 with 2 home runs through May 19th, then he'd be getting booed everywhere because folks would say, if you were hitting like you should be hitting, if you were treating your body like you should be treating it, we could be leading the division.
Yeah, we want him to hit like Babe Ruth, not look like Babe Ruth. So that's the big thing there for Miggy. Yeah, last 3 years, 16 home runs, 3 home runs, and 12 home runs. Nobody's going to like that. Miguel Cabrera, I know sometimes you see the Facebook, you probably have seen it, that Facebook feed where it's like, hey, me and Miggy's over there, patting Altuve on the head. He's joking around with the fans and everything. And that's good if Miggy's in the lineup and his bat's doing the talking. If it's not, he's all ticked off. He's mad at reporters. You're starting to talk about the language barrier. You're talking about his contract, talking about his bulky knees and everything else. But the one thing here, he's not going to get it this year. He's not going to get to 500 home runs. He's 23. Is he 23 shy of getting to 500? If they play 82 games, I don't think he's going to get 23 home runs.
No, I mean, I think a lot of folks would say if they played 162 games, he would be in deep trouble to try to get to 23 home runs in a season.
Wow.
Well, I mean, you just brought up the numbers. 31 home runs the last 3 years, and what was it, 12 home runs last year? I'm going to put something else up on the screen for everybody out there because I was looking at Miguel Cabrera's numbers on Baseball Reference before the show, and one thing they did is they put up the 2020 simulated stats through May 19th. And as you can see right there, through May 19th, they're projecting Miguel Cabrera would have played 34 games, and he'd have 1 home run with 9 RBIs, a 269 batting average, and a 726 OPS. I mean, if he was actually doing that and he wasn't saved by the Rona, fans might be booing him. 1 home run in the middle of May, yikes.
Yeah, that sucks, man. His approval rating would be below 5 if that was the case. But you know what? The one thing about the Tigers not playing right this year, they were out of it at this time. The year before, they made it to mid-June. So, from this part here, if you're hoping that the Tigers can give you something before they just leave you with an abbreviated schedule, if they're able to come back and figure it all out. And Miguel Cabrera, maybe he can play more than half the season, and it'd just be, I don't think anybody thinks it's going to end. It's going to end more like Victor Martinez than Derek Jeter did with the
Well,
Yankees.
especially because of the knee injury. It's one
Yeah.
thing if he's just kind of fading like Big Poppy, and he could at least come up to the plate and with a man on first and third in the ninth inning, smack one out the park. But if he A, can't run, and B, doesn't have power because of a medical issue that just isn't going to get any better, then he's screwed. All this little talk and chitter chatter about he could be Big Poppy. Big Poppy didn't have a messed up knee. And Big Poppy tested positive for Roy's. You know what I'm saying? We'll just leave that to the side.
Yeah, I tell you what, you look at Big Poppy's numbers, you look at Nelson Cruz's numbers, another guy who took performance-enhancing drugs, and, sometimes you think, you know what, Miggy, man, could you imagine? Miggy, it seems like if Miggy took performance-enhancing drugs, he could hit 50 home runs this year, but instead, he's going to hit 9.
Here's a question for you. Would Miguel Cabrera's approval rating go up or down if he took performance-enhancing drugs and then hit 40 home runs?
Well, if you didn't find out he was taking performance-enhancing drugs and he hit 40 home runs, he would be up near a 10. But then if they found out after the season he tested positive, they'd go down to a 3. So
yeah, I think that's true, and I think a lot of folks would be questioning that throughout the season. We do encourage everybody out there, if you have a chance before the show, to send in a tweet, perhaps a video tweet of 30 seconds or less if you want to weigh in on anything we've been talking about. And we actually did get a tweet coming in. Who's this from? This is from Reno. And here is his comment to you and I, Dennis.
Hey, Dennis. Hey, Brian. This is Reno from Howell. My question is, how many Tiger pitching prospects do you guys predict that we might see if there's a season down at Comerica? Like either Mize or Manning? I know that I'd definitely go down there and watch either one of those guys if they got the nod. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks.
So there you go, Reno asking about pitching prospects that the Tigers could bring up. And look, I think that one thing that you have to take into consideration here is that the proposal sent by the owners to the players said that they would not have a 25 or a 26-man roster. It'd be a 30-man roster plus an additional 20-man taxi squad or whatever they want to call it. And when you think about that, when you think about some uncertainties about the minor leagues, I think it would be highly likely that we would see Mize and Manning and perhaps even a Skubal in the first month of the season once it were to restart.
Skubal's throwing 98 in spring training. I would expect to see him as well. And look, man, when Justin Verlander, he didn't come up in 2006 and have no games prior to that. They brought him up for 2 games in 2005.
4th of July. I was there for his major league debut in Cleveland for that doubleheader on the 4th of July. He was rolling in the first 2-3 innings, throwing that fastball, and then the Indians said, hey, he just thinks he can come up here and throw 80 or 98 and 100 mile per hour fastballs by us. And then I think it was the 4th or 5th inning they started hitting homers and doubles and he was gone. But I still remember being in that game, being at that stadium, the doubleheader, and the Tigers got swept.
Yeah, it kind of feels like you're going to have the Tigers going out there, whatever it is. 4th of July would be great if you had baseball back, but then when you get into other September where you might see a game or two, one thing you don't have to worry about with these guys are the innings. Like, I got to worry about shutting them down and put too much wear and tear on their arms. They need some innings. They need to get out there. So I hope we get to see all 3 of those guys. If we're going all the way through and we don't see any of the young arms. By the way, Reno, I like that old English D hat. That was pretty sweet. I haven't seen one like that. That looked like an old school English D. But yeah, man, that's what it's all about. Like Miguel Cabrera, yeah, hit some home runs, let your bat do the talking. But other than that, man, do I want to see Nico Goodrum or do I want to see Matt Manning? Come on.
Well, Goodrum had a higher slugging percentage than Mickey last year.
Yeah, well,
saying
God,
much.
no. You have anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah.
Somebody asking me if this is a Rodney Stuckey jersey. Now, this is a Pistons.
No, I think he's talking about the jersey that I have up, the number 3.
Oh, okay.
No, that's a Big Ben Wallace jersey. Big Ben Wallace jersey. I would turn it around, but I'm on the air.
I'm going to tell you something about this particular shirt right here. I got this at an open. I don't remember what year it was. It was at the Palace, though. I was doing an opening show there, and they had a gift bag for some of the media, and this was inside. And I swear, I've washed this thing like 500 times. It doesn't fade, and it's great material, man. I'd go out and buy another one of these. Stoney's got a red one. I saw him, and he said, yeah, I got that the next year. So whatever they make it for, it doesn't even, like, none of the stuff even peels off, man. It's awesome. It's my favorite shirt.
There you go. And I got my Tigers Old English D dry fit shirt on. There you go.
There you go. Well, hey, let's get to the second chapter. We've talked enough about Miguel Cabrera. And for this, we stay in Major League Baseball. And the players can't spit. They can't eat seeds. They can't high five. This is according to Major League Baseball. I know got that the rules that you can put up there on the screen. Do you feel like this is overkill, or do you feel like this is necessary if baseball is coming back?
Yeah, and Dennis, I just put it right up there on the screen, like you said. No fist bump celebrations or spitting sunflower seeds in the dugouts. Prohibited from taking showers after games.
Ooh.
Ban on chewing tobacco. No high fives or hugs after a home run. And where else? What else is there? Oh, here we go. And then you got players not in the lineup would need to sit in auxiliary seating at a social distance and not in the dugout. Look, I understand what Major League Baseball is doing here. They're trying to abide by the social distancing guidelines. They're trying to make sure that everybody is healthy. But one thing that they also mentioned in that article and in the proposal was that players would be tested multiple times per week. You would have everybody that's in... No, absolutely not. Get that off the screen. Get that off the screen. Not only would you have players getting tested multiple times per week, but everybody that's associated with the game is getting tested multiple times per week. And when I think about that, it doesn't, I'm not an epidemiologist or a public health expert, but it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to say after everyone is tested positive multiple times per week that you can't shower after the game at the stadium, you can't fist bump when somebody hits a home run, you can't spit on the field, whether it's saliva or it's a sunflower seed. Players have to sit in the stands. Managers have to wear a mask over their mouth. That's ridiculous. What's the point? What's the point of testing negative multiple times per week if you're going to act like you've tested positive multiple times per week and you're an active coronavirus carrier? It's ridiculous. Let them play. Let them spit. Let those players spit.
Well, I think, they call MLB the show. This is for show is what it is. Like, hey, we're really trying to do everything we can, so this is what we're going to do. You know what? Even if there are good intentions behind this, it's like, you get out there, you're going to spit. What do you, like, I was just watching a little bit. I was looking down here at a replay of the show, and I'm not supposed to touch my face either. I was looking over there, and all of a sudden I was scratching my nose. Like, if you came on and said, hey, don't scratch your nose, don't touch your face, it still happens. What are you going to do? Have them not, grab their crotch either? That's going to happen. And guess what? Chewing tobacco. I used to chew tobacco at work, and it said no chewing tobacco in the studio. I would chew it anyways. And guess what? Last year there's somebody in there that wasn't me chewing tobacco. Like, you can do it. You can do it on the sly. People will be doing it. Jim Harbaugh on the sideline, he's chewing tobacco too.
Yeah, well,
not a good look, but they're going to do it.
How would they enforce this? Like, if I don't know, Travis Demeritte is out in right field. He just misjudged the fly ball. He's disappointed. He spits on the ground. Are they going to go to instant replay to ensure that he spat on the ground? If there's a snitch on the Kansas City Royals that said he snitched, and then are they going to eject him from the game or something like that? If somebody is caught spitting sunflower seeds, are they going to get a $1,000 fine? If somebody hits a 2-run home run in the 6th to tie the game up and everybody gives him a high five, is everybody that gave him a high five going to be ejected from the game? I mean, there's no way to enforce it. Plus, I know you don't watch the Korean baseball organization, but in Korea, they're allowing high fives. I've seen players hit home runs and the whole dugout celebrates. Are you supposed to hit a home run and then sit by yourself like you just struck out? That's ridiculous.
No, maybe you can have a bottle of Purell pocket. You can spray it out there after you high five everybody. Yeah,
that's another thing. Is in these rules, they say you have to sanitize your hands after every half inning.
Well, good luck. I mean, some of that stuff sounds good, like preventative measures, but none of it's going to happen. Oh, wait a second. Let's go to the video from yesterday. Brian, it looks like Spencer Turnbull's coming out with a 3-piece suit. His hair looks slicked back. He looked like he took a shower. Like, hey, come on. What are you going to do here? You can't do it.
Yeah. And, I mean, I was thinking, well, are they just going to have these players coming out to the dishonest media stinking? But then I guess that they're not going to have players, and they're not going to have media in the locker rooms after the games anyway, so it might not matter. I don't know if they're going to have a Zoom call or what, but if somebody just got through playing, for 4 hours in the heart of Texas or in Miami, and it was 95 degrees with 95% humidity all day. They tested negative. All the teammates were negative. All the personnel were negative. The umpires were negative. And you tell him, hey, you got to stay in your jersey and in your cleats until you get to the hotel room. And then you're going to have some poor individual go into the bus and wipe down every single sweaty crotch seat. It's unnecessary. Either you're going to say they tested negative and we're going to trust the tests, or don't even play.
Yeah, RM on the YouTube feed agrees with you. He says if there's testing the players, if they're testing these players beforehand, none of this should be an issue. And you're right with that. And, I just can't see, like you said, the managers are supposed to wear, I just can't see Gardy, wearing a mask down there in the dugout. Although they could just get some of these canned interviews from last year, like when the Tigers lose and Gardy comes out and just says, yeah, we got our tail whipped. Just run that one back, Fennec. You make up everything anyway.
Whoa. But now, have you watched any of the UFC fights over the last week and a half?
No.
Okay. Well, one thing I haven't seen from UFC fighters is them wearing a mask during the fight. One thing I haven't seen them do is after each round go sanitize their hands or anything like that. They tested negative multiple times throughout the week. They're good. Can you imagine the NBA if they followed Major League Baseball's guidelines and said you have to stay 6 feet apart? I mean, you can't play any defense. You can't set a pick. I mean, this stuff doesn't make sense. So they're going to have the bench players or the guys that are not active for that day sitting in the crowd, sitting in the stands like they plan to do for bench players in Major League Baseball. If you're not in the starting lineup, you got to go sit in the 7th row. This doesn't make sense at all. It's absurd, and I hope that the players just ignore it because there's no way they can enforce it anyway.
Well, I'm sure that the medical profession is saying, hey, it's going to be asymptomatic, and that's why we're trying to treat everybody like they do have it, even if they tested. But at some point, you got to go out there. If they're going to play ball, you got to let them go out there and play baseball. You can't have masks, and you can't tell the players they can't spit and chew tobacco and seeds, and it's just you're not going to be able to have the games. It's just not going to happen. I mean, and they can say this, but that they're not going to abide by it. So go ahead and put it all down there and say it, and then they'll play baseball, and then you'll see them doing it.
No, you're right about that. And if they do try to enforce this in any way, shape, or form, I have to imagine that all the players and all the fans are going to be livid when they see, I don't know, like Judge get suspended for 3 games, get suspended for a series against the Yankees, all because, he spat on the field or because he hit a home run and had the nerve, had the audacity to high-five a bunch of his teammates after hitting that home run.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen. What if they hit a walk-off, man? You imagine them coming around and everybody, nope, Let's just go to the dugout.
That's right. You see Aaron Judge get to the home plate and he grabs a can of Lysol like, you come within 6 feet, I'm spraying you. Stay away.
All right, here's Matthew Boyd, so some chin music for somebody from Cleveland. They're going to go charge the mound. All of a sudden, wait a second, no charging the mound.
Yo, that's another thing. They banned fighting.
I thought it was banned already.
Yeah, well, I guess they're going to have some stricter punishment because not only could you bust somebody's nose like Rufnet Odor and Jose Batista, but you could bust their nose and you could have little coronavirus particles getting inside their nostril cavity, and they could be in the ICU.
Here's another message coming in. It says, "Hey guys, is Michael starting this season? If so, what are your expectations for him?" He is returning. You got an expectation for him? He's supposed to return. You got an expectation for him?
Well, I saw actually before the show, Jennifer Hammond of Fox 2 say that Michael Fulmer has been working out in Lakeland the whole time and he feels 100%. So, I mean, he is kind of a forgotten name because he didn't pitch all of last year and he wasn't going to be ready for the start of spring training. Expectations for him? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know because it's been so long since he's pitched. I know that typically when you come back from a Tommy John surgery, you can come back stronger and you can come back quickly, but I don't know. I would assume he'd be better than Zimmerman.
Before the season, Chap, he was targeting a July return. So, you know what? I would assume that is still the timeline. If
he could be the opening day starter.
He could, and if he's not, that means he's had a setback. If they're going to, push him back and start talking about August, then that's going to be bad news. Because they said before the season that timeline was July.
Yep. All right, Dennis, let's turn the page to the third chapter. And for this third chapter, we're going to stay right here in the state because Governor Gretchen Whitmer has been in the headlines a lot lately. Today, she made headlines by telling NBC's Today Show that she has had discussions about becoming Joe Biden's vice president. But that's not the Whitmer news we're going to get into. Earlier this week, yesterday as a matter of fact, she announced her plans to start liberating Michigan. And the problem is, for people around here in Metro Detroit, it wasn't in the high population density areas of Detroit, Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids. Here is what she told the state of Michigan when she had her press conference yesterday. It was a press conference that was streamed all over the state, and we're getting this video from WOOD TV.
Start plan. That would be phase 4. So today I signed an executive order that loosens some restrictions in Merck Regions 6 and 8. Also
expect me to read sign language?
The Upper Peninsula and the greater Traverse City area. Starting this Friday, people in those regions, starting Friday at 12:01 a.m. to be exact, people in those regions can reopen retail businesses, restaurants, and bars with limited seating. So this is a new way of dining, but we're going to be very careful and we're going to engage slowly. Office work that cannot be done remotely. And I want to be very clear that these businesses have got to adhere to the worker safety requirements that I mentioned before. The choice of whether these regions fully engage these sectors of their economy also depends on their local governments. If they want to take a more cautious course, they're free to limit the operation of restaurants or bars within their jurisdiction.
So there you go. People that have been calling for Governor Whitmer to liberate Michigan, she's doing so, at least when it comes to bars and restaurants and some retail areas at a 50% capacity up north. Not around here, but only up north. And she also said that they can't reopen the rest of Michigan because the numbers up north are so much lower than they were around here. We've got some more audio to play for you a little bit later in the show. But Dennis, what do you think about this plan to start liberating up north, but not the rest of Michigan? Are you guys, is your family going to be going for an I-75 drive up north during the holiday weekend to go sit down at a restaurant?
No, and I didn't even know they had it sectioned off like that. Hey, go 6 and 8, huh? Feels like a little bit like the Hunger Games. I used to do that. I don't know if you've seen that movie there, but yeah, I mean, my brother and my niece both went to Marquette, so there to the UP. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It's a pretty remote area up there. Look, every state's got their own plans. We know what Texas was saying today, what New York was saying, what California. We know what Georgia wants to do. We know what West Virginia wants to do. Everybody's got their game plan here. And you know what? Do I know better than these remote areas? Although, I'm looking and they're talking about, well, what about over on the east side of the state in whatever section that was for when people were analyzing the numbers? I don't know if they got a good case or not. What you hope, we know that we're crawling here, and we just hope that, this comes out or that we could just build on it. It seems to me like, there's they are looking at a little science behind it. I watched all of that, those videos and the whole thing. And, do I think that she's doing it because she's president, to try to slow play this, to, curry some favor? I'll just say, I think that they're trying to do the best thing here for the state, and let's hope it goes well so we can open up everything else.
Yeah, the way I've looked at it the whole time is that I am not an expert, and I am going to trust the experts because I know a lot of people out there say, well, hey, it's not affecting me, or hey, I'm young, or I've been staying to myself, or hey, I need to get some money, or it's not that bad, it's only the flu. What I know is that I went to college for journalism, and these epidemiologists and these doctors, they went to college for 4 years for biology and pre-med. Then they went to medical school for 4 more years, and then they've been studying in this field for 10, 20, 30 years. And so I'm going to trust their expertise over something that I read for 15 minutes on my own in a news article, or something that I saw on TV in some news coverage. They are the experts and I'm not. And I guess our state's top medical expert is Chief Medical Executive Dr. Joni Caldoun. And here is what she said yesterday when she got an opportunity to speak to the state of Michigan after Governor Whitmer did.
19 across the state. Based on what we have seen in the upper part of the Lower Peninsula and the Upper Peninsula, we are able to move forward with the next phase of reopening in those areas. Both of those regions, as the governor mentioned, have sustained a low incidence of cases per day, have seen a steady decrease in positivity rates for tests that have been completed, and they have a low average number of deaths each day when you compare them to the state average. We are continuing to monitor other areas of the state where case numbers are declining, but they are not quite ready to move to stage 4. The Detroit metro region continues to see improvements in the decline in cases, but they still have a relatively high rate at 27 cases per million people per day. This area has also seen an increase over the past week in the percent of tests that are positive.
So there you go. That's her breakdown of it. And when she breaks it down like that and says, hey, not only up north are they, just kind of dispersed, but they have a minuscule number of people testing positive compared to the rest of the state. When you look at it at a per person or per 1 million person rate. And because of that, I feel comfortable opening up the bars and restaurants up north. I say, all right, she's the expert. She says that up north they can do so. I'm all right with that. They say that we can't do it down here. We have to live with that. But I'll say this. I'm not going to be streaking up I-75 or 23 or whatever just to go to a bar or a restaurant up north. And one thing I'm concerned about is the ability to trust people, because there are a lot of folks that are saying, hey, here's our chance to go to a restaurant. Here's our chances to drink. Let's go do it. And then they ruin it for everybody because they don't abide by the 50%. Or they start mingling with people up there, then they spread it to everybody else. And when they go back to Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, and Detroit, everybody's got coronavirus again. I don't want to be a part of that. And I'll let everybody else dip their toe into that at first.
Well, it'd be one thing if you had a place up there and you were going to go up and you were going to use precaution and, enjoy the Memorial weekend. But to your point, if you're going to see like, yeah, let's go up so we can go and hang out and finally party. Let's not go rushing out and hit 75 and try and pack Traverse City. And I don't know, people are going to hit the bridge. Let's go to the UP. I don't think that's going to be the case, but believe me, if you're in like a neighboring, like my mom has a cabin in Clare, which is just below, you know, 20 miles below where it looks like you could get into the free zone there. Do I think people in Clare are going to be, hitting the road and going up there? Probably.
Yeah, but there's 8 people there.
Yeah, well, there you go. I do know, like, I got a text from a friend of mine who was like, "Yeah, we're heading down south. We're heading to South Ohio because they were allowing people, I guess, to drink out on the patios and stuff." And they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna check it out." And I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna wait and see what's gonna happen here first."
Yeah, I mean that's a lot closer to us in Metro Detroit. Detroit is about an hour away. Even if you're in the northern part of Metro Detroit, Sterling Heights or Rochester, I mean, you're less than 2 hours away from the Ohio border. But I'm concerned about people this weekend, this long holiday weekend, saying, "Hey, we got the time off. Even if we were working at home, we got the Monday off. Let's go up north." And then these restaurants and bars that haven't been making money over the last few months, and really haven't been making money since September because they closed down for the most part, they'll say, "Oh, 50%. We'll go to 70% or 80%, or nobody's looking. Let's go to 100%. Just please don't snitch on us. Don't go on social media and let everybody know that we're jam packed." And then somebody.
Good luck on that. Good luck on that, chap. And I know once I have a few, I can have all the good intentions in the world. But man, if I was sitting back, especially if I was single, and was throwing like 3-4 back, and there were some girls, but I could see the girl like, "Yeah, keep your social distance," excuse me, but I might be like, getting inside that 6-foot, barrier a little bit. I don't know, that.
People are going to be beating each other up there. The bouncers are going to get their, bottles crashed over their head when somebody wants to talk to a girl, but they say, "Keep your social distance." Hey, come on, bro. And you're drunk. Boom. Crack over the bouncer's head. That's going to happen.
Well, look, it's got to happen. And for people that are watching this and saying, "Hey, it's a hoax," you guys need to, get out of your. Why don't you, or just stay in your house and pull the covers over your head? I know that's been a response to a lot of people. For myself, I'm in a house with a high risk situation here, so I am one of those that has to stay sheltered here and stay home. So I was going to do that anyways. Now, if I was sitting out there and 21 years old and I was 5 miles from Traverse City or something, or 5 miles from the free zone, but I think about going out and seeing what downtown Traverse City was like, and maybe to whoop it up a little bit, even under, trying to take some precautions. So, I could see myself doing that.
Yeah, I just don't think that going to sit down at a restaurant or a bar is worth a 4-hour drive. I mean,
No.
I don't need that badly.
No, look, I saw just before we came on that maybe the Mirage, something like that, in Vegas. They're making their plans to open up. So, slowly but surely we're seeing it, popping up and all over the country. We're just gonna have Section 6 and Section 8 over this Memorial weekend. So I've got my fingers crossed that it goes well.
Yeah. Hopefully it will. Stay safe up there if you're going.
Yeah, we got game time.
Yes, it's time to turn the page to Chapter 4.
That's it. So I will do that. Here's my page, and I guess I don't have to flip it because the stuff is right here in front of me. Well, the chap I've got, instead of the game that we talked about that you had actually put up on the board, I came up with 5.
Yeah, see that right here? See that? It says man, woman, or child. Dennis decided he didn't want to do that, so we're going to scrap that. But go ahead.
Yeah, this is going to be the 5th chapter, Fast 5. So I have 5 trivia questions, and I'm going to ask you, chap. And I'm just going to tell you, you said before the show that you weren't very good at trivia. I'm really not either. But I'm going to tell you what, if you get all 5, I'll be very impressed. If you get 4, that's doing a nice job. And even if you get 3, I'll say, hey, you know what? You didn't come in. I was throwing them at you, a couple curveballs here. You got 3, you're good. Now, if we're getting down to 2, you being somebody that majored in journalism at Penn State, I'm going to be disappointed in you. If you get 1, that's going to be an embarrassment. And if you don't get any, the 5th chapter is over. You're going to be thrown off the show. So the pressure's out a little bit. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready. That's a lot of pressure right there, throwing out the show, my own show.
The first one comes from Penn State football history. I want to know who the all-time leading career rusher at Penn State is.
Is it Evan Royster?
It is Evan Royster,
Yes.
1-1.
So I get to stay on the show.
You do get to stay on the show, but if that's the only one you get, you're still an embarrassment. So, but you're 1-for-1. So you're also in line to get a big thumbs up. All right, number 2 comes from college football. This time, Michigan football. I'm going to take you back to 1997.
I
And
was a Michigan fan back then.
Michigan's undefeated season, their first 3 games of the year were all non-conference games. They were all played at home. Name one of the 3 non-conference games that Michigan had in their 97 undefeated season. You only need 1 out of the 3.
Notre Dame.
Are
Notre Dame.
you just throwing things out there, or is that your answer?
That's my final answer.
It is Notre Dame. They started out with Colorado. I don't know why I said it like that. Colorado, then Baylor, and then, Notre Dame 21-14. They beat the Irish. Nice job, Chap. 2 for 2. All right, number 3, I take you to pro football last year. Now, within 10 seconds, I'm going to give you I need time. So, and I'm going to give you some latitude here. So, within 10 seconds, how many minutes did the Packers lead the Detroit Lions in both of their games last year?
0. They led for 0 seconds. So 0.
Correct. 3 for 3. Number 4. See what you know. This is blending a little.
So I've already won.
Well, you've got it where you've done a nice job, where you're not an embarrassment and you're not going to get thrown off your show.
It wasn't like when we played, Spartan, Buckeye, or Wolverine, and you went over 3. Big embarrassment to yourself and your family.
I felt embarrassed by not being able to even get one. This one, I blend in a little politics and I suppose sports as well here. Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
That woman from Michigan.
That's her. The woman from Michigan and Sleepy Joe. Let's see how they do. She was both born and went to college in this city.
East Lansing, Michigan.
All right, you're 4 for 4, chap. Very impressive. So here's the last one. And this one is from baseball, and it's baseball history. Back in 2012, Miguel Cabrera won the Triple Crown, right? He hit .330 and had 139 ribbies. Within 5, how many home runs? 330 batting average, 139 ribbies. How many homers did Miguel Cabrera have when he won the Triple Crown in 2012? Within 5, I'll give you.
When he won the Triple Crown in, 2012?
Yes. 2012.
Okay, when he won the Triple Crown in 2012 and stole the MVP from Mike Trout, he had 44 home runs.
Wow, I wish I had a bell. I thought I was going to bring one up here. Nice job. 5 for 5 on game time. Nice job, chap.
There we go. That's how you play it.
Hey, you did a good job there. I didn't know if you were going to get all 5 or not. Nice. You know, when you're creating the trivia question, you don't want to make them complete layups. Like you knew Evan Royster. You had to think about it a little bit there. 44 home runs. You hit it right on the nose. You might have not known that Whitmer went to Michigan State and was born there in Lansing, but you did the job there. So nice job.
That's right. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's how you play game time here on the Fifth Chapter. And speaking of the Fifth Chapter, let's turn the page to the Fifth Chapter. When the NFL released its schedule a couple of weeks ago, Dennis, I don't know if a lot of you guys knew this, but Dennis chugged, right what you saw right there, a big gallon of same old Lions Kool-Aid, because he went through it game by game and said, Chap, the Lions are going 9-7, a Jim Caldwell record. I just kind of rolled my eyes. I looked at the schedule.
Not good enough. Not good enough.
I looked at the schedule objectively and said 5-11, SOL. Now, when you look at our predictions from the outside, you have to say that Dennis probably picked a 6-win improvement because he figured that the Lions had a very good to great offseason. And you might say that I didn't pick a big improvement, only a 3-win improvement, or actually a 2-win improvement at 5-11, because I figured they had a same old Lions offseason. Well, why don't we bring in Bill Barnwell of ESPN.com? Because he's been releasing his rankings for NFL off seasons this week. He's been going with 8 per day, starting from the bottom. He did 25 to 32 yesterday, 17 to 24 today. 9 through 16 is going to come out tomorrow, and 1 through 8 on Thursday. Obviously, Dennis, we're talking about this today, meaning the Lions have already been listed today, meaning they have to be in the bottom half. So I'll put it up on the screen so people can see. Let's see how long it takes us to get to the Detroit Lions. Here's his article. At number 32, the Houston Texans. Of course, they traded away DeAndre Hopkins. Where are the Lions? Are they number 31? No. Their division rivals, Chicago Bears, are at number 31. They mentioned signing Jimmy Graham as the worst contract in free agency. Number 30, Bob Quinn's old team, the New England Patriots, and of course Matt Patricia's old team. Of course, they got rid of Tom Brady and they're going with Jarrett Stidham as the quarterback. Where are the Lions? Are they anywhere in this range? Not in the 30s. What about 29? Bingo! The Detroit Lions with the 29th ranked off season. As we look at what Bill Barnwell said went right, he said, among other things, on paper, the trio of Okudah, Trufant, and Justin Coleman would rank as one of the best cornerback combinations in the league. Wow, how about that? And of course, when it comes to what went wrong, since they have the 4th worst offseason in the NFL, according to him, Coach Matt Patricia and General Manager Bob Quinn elected to rebuild most of their defense by acquiring the players Bill Belichick didn't want to keep, a move that typically turns out poorly for other teams. He mentioned Jamie Collins. He mentioned Harmon. He mentioned the inability to trade down from the number 3 pick in the draft. And
I'm with them on that. They needed to trade down and create some leverage. They weren't able to do it.
And then
or get some leverage, yeah.
In terms of free agency, the 5-year, $45 million deal handed to H. Vaitai pays the former Eagles swing tackle like he is an upper echelon starter. So, Dennis, you see what Bill Barnwell is saying there about the Lions offseason, 4th worst in the NFL. I mean, do you agree with this? Or do you say, wait a second, let me chug some more of this Kool-Aid and tell you why the Lions had a very good to great offseason?
Well, I think he's right, and I think he's wrong. Like, when I look at what the Lions did in free agency, I think they just the things that they swapped out and then what they brought in, you're talking about Hal Vaitai and, for Rick Wagner, you're looking at some of the Trufant for Slay. If I thought that they were making the moves, like Slay, get him out of here because he thought he was past his prime, and it wasn't because he liked talking out against the regime, which is what it was for, just like his buddy where they did it before. If you would have taken the players that the Lions have now and you'd be throwing them aside and talking, hey, we're bringing in Snacks and bringing in Slay, and you'd go through and you'd say, wow, man, these guys are real game breakers. Things would look good. I did not, I didn't think they got better in free agency. Now, I thought they had a good draft. And so from that standpoint, and I think that they can have 4 guys. I mean, here they were picking up towards the top in each draft. I think they'll have 4 guys that are going to make impacts there. One of those 2 guys that they got in the 4th and 5th round, Okudah, and I think Swift for sure is going to be in there working in tandem. I like the draft, and with Stafford back, I think this team, they're in that 7-9, 9-7 range. 9-7 does sound pretty optimistic, but so I think Barnwell's right in that, what they did in free agency lacks. And I wish they would have been able to drop down from 3. That was on Quinn and Martha Ford and company. But, I like the draft. So, putting them at 29 seems awful.
No, I think it actually seems fair. Because I like their draft as well, particularly their top 4 picks of Okudah, Swift, Okwara, and Jackson. The Stenberg pick, it wasn't all the greatest, especially when you find out that he likes to commit penalties. Their day 3 was just okay, but I mean it's day 3, so you can't really crack on them too hard for that. I give them a B plus. I would have liked to see them draft or to trade down to get an extra first or second round pick as well, but they didn't. But the rest of their offseason, it was awful. I mean, you mentioned it. They got rid of their best players. The best player on the team the last couple of years was Darius Slay. He was a Pro Bowler each of the last 3 years. How do you trade away your best player and get yourself what turns into basically Jonah Jackson, a rookie third-round pick guard, and say, hey, we're moving in the right direction? Oh, because he spoke out against the regime, because he didn't like the way he was being treated, and talk about, hey, you're sucking this man's crank, or whatever the terminology he used on that Instagram with was it Glover Quinn, when they were just ripping Matt Patricia. Look, the bottom line is, from a talent standpoint, they got worse. They got rid of him. They got rid of Snacks, and they're bringing in, like I was looking up the information on Vitae. Pro Football Focus gave him a rating of 72.8 on their scale, and I had to look up what that meant, and that means he's a well below average starting caliber right tackle. So he's good enough to start, but he's also good enough to really disappoint you when he starts. The Eagles said, you know what, get out of here. The Lions said, hey, we don't believe what Pro Football Focus is putting out there. We don't believe that fake news. We think you're a very good, borderline Pro Bowl right tackle, so we're going to pay you as such. And then you get all these washed up former Bill Belichick guys, Shelton and Collins, to join Trey Flowers, or they're going to disappoint. Everybody's out there. I mean, I think you have to include throughout, when you evaluate the offseason, that everybody trashes Patricia. No, this is an SOL offseason. Not many teams are worse than the Lions.
Well, when they bring in Jadeveon Clowney or Jabal Sheard, I know you're going to change your tune a little bit, or Marcel Darius, one of those three, like Barnwell points out in there. You'll change your tune a little bit. Maybe you'll bump them up a game or two.
The only way that they're going to come to Detroit is if the whole offseason gets to the final couple of weeks. Before, I mean, like we're in mid-August. They can't find a deal, and they say, all right, I'm not going to win this year. Well, let me just go out there and get an exorbitant amount of money from the Detroit Lions. I know that it's going to be terrible playing for Matt Patricia. I know that we're going to be practicing in the snow on the week before Thanksgiving when we got 3 dome games in a row. But let me just do it. Let me just get rich, and then I'll just go out and try to become a winner next year. It's going to be a whole bunch of
nice.
What's that?
Say something nice about the Lions. Can you say anything? Now, you gave them a B plus in their draft. I guess that's nice.
That was nice. And they're also very generous with their money for lackluster players. You're a lackluster player, you want to get paid? Here you go, Mike Daniels, $10 million. Hey, Vitae, you're a lackluster offensive tackle. Here's $9 million per year. That's generosity.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I know how the lifelong Lion fans feel, and these are the ones, like, if you listen to it, like, mostly what you're throwing out there is fact. After a while, you just need to go like this and go like this and just say, I don't care about I don't care. I'm loyal to them, and I'm riding.
I'll give you some good news if you are a Detroit Lions fan, and I'll put this article right back up there on the screen. As you remember, Bill Barnwell had the Chicago Bears as the number 31 off-season this year. Second worst in the league. The Lions, not far behind them, at number 29. But we keep on going. Number 28, the Rams. Number 27, the Green Bay Packers. So you've got 2 teams right there in the same neighborhood as the Lions is having an SOL offseason. I think the Bears had a worse offseason than the Lions, and I think that because they traded up to go get Jordan Love, the Green Bay Packers actually had a worse offseason than the Detroit Lions. But the Packers are better to begin with.
Yeah, and they had a fantastic offseason last year where they got the Smith brothers to come in, and it was a huge impact for them on defense. Yeah, when you draft Jordan Love, that's not helping you. That's not helping you in 2020. Now, wide receiver, the Denzel Mims, that would have helped you if you were a Green Bay Packer. So it might work out in the long run for them, but it's not helping them next year. Well, although I'm picking the Packers to win the North, and the Vikings to come in right there with the Lions. Maybe they have it 10-6, but Lions 9-7, fighting for second place.
Hey, remember, guys, this is an individual who picked the Detroit Lions to go 9-7. So for when you think about that kind of credibility, talking about the Minnesota Vikings, just nix that all together. The Minnesota Vikings are going to win the division, and if not, they'll be a close second. They're going to get double-digit wins. Lions are going to try to get half that.
All right, I've just had enough of you for tonight. That's all, man. I can handle. That's all I can handle. You know, you got to put the Lions in one of the first couple chapters, or else I'm ready to close the book on you. And we do come your way live 8:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so you can join in. You saw that video earlier by Reno and Howell talking about the Tigers. You can throw one of those. We'll put a little short video on there. We'll put it up here. Chap pulls it off and puts it on the show. That's the way it's done. We read your comments during the show. We like those going on as well. So it's been a lot of fun here, and we've only done 3 shows, Chap.
No, you're right about that, and can't wait for Thursday.
Yeah, and coming up on Thursday, we did not mention his name one time in nearly an hour here on the Fifth Chapter. It was the number 3 pick in the NFL draft this year, Jeff Okudah. We'll do a profile of Okudah, things that he has said, and we'll look at some of his video, and we will talk about the expectations for the Savior out there on the corner. And don't forget the big news now coming in 2 weeks right here on the Fifth Chapter. I know Chapman can't wait for it. And for Brian Chapman, I'm Dennis Fithy, and this is the Fifth Chapter. Thanks for watching.
The people can't wait, he represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fifth Chapter. Huh. Brian Chapman, Dennis Fithy, and when they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have